Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Carbonite Bounty BS with me and the nerds here. I hope everybody's had a good week, but yeah, we're back and some new details about Bad Batch and some also interesting stuff we got coming along the Star Wars, Star Wars galaxy that we'd love to share with you guys. But before we get started here, let's let DP let us know where to find us at.
Uh, nerdcyclopedia.com. People, make sure that you are going on your favorite website, nerdcyclopedia.com, and hitting up all our links at Nerdcyclopedia. We are on Twitter, Facebook, and also on Instagram. And I'm actually live streaming our episode right now. So on Instagram, hey, check us out. Also make sure that, if you're watching us on YouTube right now, you are hitting that subscribe button and also hitting that notification button. So anytime that we're on, you know that we're on. If you are listening to us on podcast, make sure that you are subscribing to us on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast, we are there. And also, drop us a line on the emails. Nerds@nerdcyclopedia.com. Join our Facebook group. We are everywhere on like social media. Carbonite Bounty BS, Star Wars podcast group. There we go.
And thank you for the intro, DP. Like I said, exciting news for everybody. But before we get going here, we'll just go around the table for all our new listeners and people out there. First off, you've just heard him, but our guy really needs no introduction. The theme of themes himself. We have DP Brown in the house.
There you go. That's who I am. That's who I be.
Secondly, we have a guy that's really our legacy Star Wars guy. He was there in the theaters when it started, and he's followed this journey the whole time. The man of 1,000 names himself. With this week, we're going with Admiral Tar-Ken.
Evening, everyone.
And last but not least, the other co-founder of this, and a guy that really needs an introduction, we got our guy, SC Hitch.
What's up?
So, guys, as we dive into this, we'll get into the news first, and then we'll obviously finish with our weekly Bad Batch content. But just off camera before we got started here, it seems like Rosario Dawson, and it's always funny, so these actors can't seem to keep their mouth shut, but dropped a little bit of hint, as far as some castings going along. So it looks like we have a potential Thrawn and Ezra Bridger casting for her series, and as we talked about, maybe kind of an Avengers Endgame kind of setup. It looks like that they tie some of these other series together. So, what are you guys' first thoughts on these?
I'm loving it. So I was super excited when I heard Lars Mikkelsen. I'm getting him mixed up with his brother now. Lars Mikkelsen, his brother was Mads, who played on Hannibal and was in Rogue One. But Lars Mikkelsen, actually, we found out from Hitch, off mic, that he voices Admiral, Grand Admiral Thrawn on Rebels, right? Yep. So it would be awesome if he ends up playing them. That would just be super spectacular. I mean, that would show me so much foresight from Dave Filoni that, okay, he's casting these voice actors with them in mind to later play the actual characters if they go into live action. I mean, that would just be so awesome. And I don't know too much about Ezra Bridger, but I heard he's really popular in Rebels. So can't wait.
Yeah, I'm starting to watch Rebels, and Ezra is a combination Luke Han character, young, naive, thinks everyone is going to help him, and believes pretty much everything. He's kind of I don't know. It's like that. That's the best way I can describe him. But he's a legit character. Like, I like it the way it's going along. I've heard some people say that Rebels is sort of a comic relief type of thing, and there's a little more humor in it. Like, it's kind of slapstick, but after you get past all that and you just start to get into the characters, it's cool. And yeah, I can't wait to see Thrawn like live, like for real. I mean, that was always, when I read Last Command, I always thought that was going to be the end prequel to Star Wars. Like, they were going to come out and do Last Command, and that was going to be the end, how it all kind of, came to a head. But I can't wait. Very, very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of along you guys as well. Like, the castings are cool. I mean, the Ezra Bridger. I mean, the guy they have casted for him, and I forget his name, but he's been out there for a while. They've been like kind of deep faking his photo and stuff. So it looks like that they are actually going with him. Speaking of deep faking, I don't know if you guys heard, but Star Wars officially signed a YouTuber. So Star Wars has signed a
Really?
YouTube. Yeah, one of us, one of us in the community, somebody who was doing deep fake fan fiction movies.
Mhm.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Typically they usually clip those or try to, shut them down for or seek legal action. But with this person, they decided to hire him. So there's definitely a future out there for YouTube. And it seems like with Filoni and the new peoples at LucasArts and Lucasfilms that they're kind of embracing this fan culture, this new fandom. You
Mhm.
know,
If you
that's all
can't
I was
beat
gonna
him,
do.
you can't beat him. Hire him.
It's that deep fake work, That's that. It's just that, once AI is doing such a good job with deep fakes now that they can almost like outsource that stuff. It's so crazy that the amount of like what you need to do it has gone down. That you can do it at home, and there's like an artistry to it. And what I think is being found out is that bridging the last gap of the uncanny valley, there's no way to automate that. It's something that you have to paint. It's an art, and so it's great that LucasArts and Disney in general is willing to throw some money at this problem since they're being stingy elsewhere, which is maybe a thing for our other show to talk about. But I'm excited about this casting. I think that, certainly the looks is correct for these characters and for them to be, the ages that they'll be in the Ahsoka timeline, in the Mandalorian-ish, right? Post episode 6. I am exactly like Ken in that I read all the Admiral Thrawn stuff and thought it was really the best story. The best story that they had was the Thrawn stuff in Legends, story-wise. Maybe there are some better books in there.
Right.
I know some of our listeners are very partial to the New Jedi Order series, which I read and thought was very good as well. But I think that Thrawn was really the best of the, what was retconned out. Thrawn is the best of the things that were cut out. So it's great to see Thrawn returning and to see them go in this direction. It opens up just a laundry list of things that Admiral Thrawn can do. And because Thrawn is the strategic genius, whatever you give that remnant of the Empire, it's enough. Because what makes Thrawn dangerous is Thrawn. Nothing else about him. Not some magical fleet of ships no one else knew about. Shh. A hidden fleet. Shh.
So I've been hearing about this Thrawn character like for ever since the Ahsoka episode was came on the Mandalorian, and I've just been so enthralled at the name Thrawn. Just sounds hard. What makes you alluded to a little bit, Hitch, but just tell me a little bit about this Thrawn character. Just what makes him what's the difference between him and Darth Vader? What makes him such a badass just like that?
Sure. So Darth Vader is very powerful, right? Darth Vader has things about he's a witch. You know what I mean? He can read your mind and move stuff around. He's got the laser sword. Thrawn has just his mind, and he is an innovative commander that wins space battle engagements by thinking in an extra dimension. So, and I don't want to get into the specifics about like the things that he's done, just in case they steal plot points. So I don't want to spoiler out, people. Right. But I will say that he's portrayed as sort of like he thinks about things outside the box. He thinks creatively. He studies a species' art to gain insight into a commander. So, like if he were facing Admiral Akbar, for instance, he'd be looking at a Mon Calamari opera like we saw in episode 3. So this would be something in the plot you'd see. Some very cool stuff. And so he's like the Alexander the Great. You can never beat him in a one-on-one straight fight because he'll find a way to win by doing something you didn't think possible. I thought
the Sith used the Force for, they use the power of the Force. Thrawn uses it for mental strength. So it's a totally different battle. It's a totally different battle he fights.
Yeah, and it's not like heisty one-upsmanship either. It's more like the one thing that reminded me the most of Thrawn that we've seen in canon so far is that move in episode 8 where Admiral Dahl where she does the light speed ramming into the big cruiser. Oh man, that smacked of something Admiral Thrawn would do, right? Like they would call that. Like I almost thought they were going to call it the Thrawn maneuver just to be like exactly like that, because that seems like something that Thrawn, like they, maximizing, punch, right? It's just very interesting, and Thrawn has a very awesome look if you've seen it. So this character will be very striking on screen with red eyes and jet black hair and blue skin. Thrawn is gonna stick at the top of the Republic Navy, despite the fact that he's not a human, and despite the fact that Palpatine. I think we're one thing. I think this is a super side thing that I think is that the reason Palpatine prefers humans as his underlings is because it's easier for him to control them, because he's more. It's like a more familiar brain for him, and so Thrawn survives all of that. Like Thrawn is indispensable to the Empire, and that's how good he is at being the Admiral. So that's why Thrawn is such an intriguing character to plop into this situation, because unlike the Skywalkers, for instance, what Thrawn can do isn't tied to who he is. He can do anything.
Right. It's kind of like like you were saying, his kind of use of the Force is more like a battle meditation. He can see strategically events in the future and things of that nature. So, I mean, I think DP, you'll really like his character. It's something different, because you always have the Sith and the Jedi. So you kind of need, kind of like your Grievous and some of these other characters who have different, elements to them. So, I think you'll be really excited about them. And good shout on the books. Those books are really excellent. So definitely good shout on that.
Yeah, can't wait to check him out. Hopefully, it just sounds like he's just going to be a big part of the Ahsoka series, or however they cross that over to when they end up doing battle with them and everything. So I'm super excited. I'm just super excited about all this Star Wars content coming out.
Right,
and they're casting these other characters that are going to span the gap between this Bad Batch series that we're about to talk about in time, this Order 66 era, and the modern era, the post-original trilogy era. And so it gives them the opportunity to bring characters forward from one show to another, meaning someone like Omega, we already have her brother in Mandalorian. It's just all of it cycles this like recognition and excitement. It's weird. It's like they've created a false nostalgia for me, right? Because these are all characters I didn't grow up with, but I'm going to be excited to see them like I did. So this it's good work, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, and Hitch, I know you kind of alluded to it as far as on your other show, but it looks like Disney might be losing a battle here with this premium access Disney Plus. I listen. When that broke today, I never seen this coming. I mean, I personally thought it was a success based on my likelihood of not going to a theater. It seems like this Delta variant may be getting a little stronger, and I've already seen Disney's already making guests wear masks indoors again after they got rid of all that. So I thought all signs are pointing this was a good thing, but obviously Scarlett Johansson obviously thought otherwise, and it's kind of sad about this because one of the rumors were that they were looking at maybe her to play Mara Jade as a character. But with this lawsuit, she's kind of done all across the board with anything affiliated with Disney. So I don't know. I mean, I think that the Han Solo movie and a lot of the stuff they had might get shelved. But then again, maybe they'll rewrite the contracts to, I guess, compensate better from what these actors thought they were getting.
It's just like, because this movie, like, how do you calculate the box office? Because if you look at a box office of $80 million, for instance, that gets cut up a lot of different ways before it even makes it back to the studio. It gets split up with the chains and all that other stuff. But the streaming revenue does not. And that is what's very crucial about it, is it is direct. So Peacock's direct to Comcast, Disney Plus direct to Disney, HBO Max direct to Warner, whatever that is now.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. So these huge conglomerates. So it comes directly in. So if you pay $30, and I think they said there were 60 million or 20 million buys or something like that. So there was 60 million in revenue here. That's equivalent to something like $250 million of box office take. So when you are, slicing that up and it's like a profit sharing agreement, and they change the way the profits are calculated, they can account it out differently to sort of underpay. So in this case, they were talking about having to rework everything because they didn't put it out in the studios exclusively before they did this. And so I think that Disney's in some trouble here. And you can tell they're in trouble because when they come out, their rebuttal isn't, no, we didn't breach this contract. It's for her to bring this up in times of a pandemic. Yeah. My goodness gracious, right?
Right. Yeah. Always got to blame the pandemic. Always got to.
Yeah.
I have a rule, and that's anytime someone starts whining about the rules of the fight, they lost the fight. So we'll see how this all shakes out. But for my preliminary sense of it is that they're in some trouble. And quite frankly, they can afford to be. Pay her. Pay these people. Pay them. There's lots of money. I think these people, these creators, and not just the capital C creators, the real high-end people.
Yeah,
like the Johansons and the Downey Juniors of the world that should be making the big bucks. But I mean, everybody should get a hunk here. And, maybe, hopefully Disney will learn a lesson about ordering things in a way that is equitable and not trying to, take a lot of this Marvel money and squirrel it away for once Mickey Mouse enters the public domain eventually. You know what I mean? Like that's not cool. So let's get it cycling back in. We want this spent, not spent, right?
Definitely. And, as far as that, like we said, obviously that's the Marvel side of things, but hopefully, this doesn't funnel into some of the projects they had planned for us because, as we all know in the corporate world, you take from one, it's coming from somewhere else. So we've already talked about the, Rangers of the Republic being canceled already. There's you just don't know the ramifications of what can happen and what will happen. But like I said, as of now, Solo 2 seems like it's a go. That'll be interesting. Yeah, that'll be very interesting to see. So I'm excited for that one.
I would have thought that they would have went more of a series route because the guy I forget his name, who plays Solo and everything. He doesn't carry that movie type presence. He carries more of a TV-ish, type presence. I'm happy to go see a Solo, two movie because the first one I thought was, decent, especially upon rewatching. But I would have thought they probably would have went more of a, TV streaming type of route with that.
No, I think
it's Han Solo.
A great movie. Well, yeah, it's Han Solo. He's got to have he's got to be in the movie theater. Got to go to got to go to the big screen to see that. It's Han Solo.
Yeah, man. I mean, you can't take Han Solo. I mean, I don't care who's playing him. You don't take Han Solo and put him on the song.
Yeah, I'd like them not to call it Solo 2.
Don't do that. And please and take away that Star Wars story thing off.
Yeah. I'd like to see like the adventures of Solo and Calrissian, or something, because at the end of Solo is they got together, right? Mm-hmm. They got together. So, and that's a big part of their relationship. And I'd like to see that. I'd like to see that. Right. I'd like to see them go after IG-88. That was a big conflict for them because they both wanted different things in that going after him. They wanted different takes.
Right.
They were both working for Jabba at the time too. So that would be a good story to see in the big. But I know what you're saying, DP. I mean, I could digest it week to week too. But
yeah.
I mean, 10 years away from Order 66 about then is when Solo 2 will be. So, I mean, the Bad Batch would be probably active if they're alive or they don't die at the end of this season, which I doubt would happen. That would be stupid for them to do that.
Omega's going to save all of them at some point.
I mean, she'll be like 20. She'll be like 20, and she'll be Boba Fett's sister, right? That feels like something that should show up in one of these Han Solo movies, doesn't it?
I would kill if Omega showed up in a Solo movie. I would just end it for me, man. I'm like crossover king right here. You gotta, Omega in a Solo movie. That would be sweet.
I mean, in my opinion, like after watching these cartoons, I'm way more amped up to see more of this post 66 era, right? Yeah. Like I'm way more interested in that content. Like I'm excited to watch Solo again now, like understanding like who the Pikes are, things like that, right? Yeah, all that background stuff, that I was sort of like perplexed by before it will make sense. And so maybe I'll be able to immerse myself more in it, and I won't be distracted by the fact that Han Solo plainly isn't Harrison Ford, which is okay because it's just what the nature of the universe is.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll be able to immerse myself.
So I mean, speaking of that, you got used to the you were sort of jarred by the fact that okay, it's not like Harrison Ford can de-age even though they got the technology, but you had to get used to this guy playing the Han Solo character, and he didn't do bad.
No, it's a good performance for what it is.
I did a good job.
He studied the mannerisms, and even the relationship with him and Chewbacca was perfect. I mean, he nailed it from when they met in the prison cell, just their ongoing banter and the kind of fighting, and they really sort of, fell in love with each other. I mean, they had a relationship, and you really got that really strong through starting with A New Hope. You knew that there was something between Solo and Chewie.
Right.
It was deep. And the Solo movie grabbed it. And you knew, since you already knew, you saw it, you were a fan, you knew what was going on, and now you see where it started. I mean, the kid did, I don't know what the kid's name is, but I thought he was pretty well cast.
Yeah. He was like a relative unknown and everything. And I heard he had like you could, verify this, Trent. But I think he had like real bad acting problems or something, doing the whole production. And they had to do a lot of work on him to get him up to par as like a likable, Han Solo. So yeah, I mean, it's the movie came out, decent to me, and I'm loving the fact that they are even broaching the fact that they're going to do a second one, because I thought that was just dead in the water after the performance of the first one there.
Yeah,
but now there's this. They've done a good enough job with this other stuff that they want to have more. They have more meat to put into this next Solo movie, right? Like Beckett and that crew were created for the Solo movie, right? Even Kira was created for the Solo movie, so it was its own entity. And it seems to me like what they've figured out is that the magic thing for them to do is to dip into the deep bench and have somebody show up that's a mainline, like a TV main, show up as a supporting character in a movie. And that is basically
and who's doing that so far masterfully? They're brothers across the hall, the MCU. So you take pages out of that book. They're doing the Lando series. It hasn't gotten word back if Donald Glover's going to do that, but they're still going to they're going forward with that. So I mean, you could in theory have Solo dip into the Lando series and then dip back out into his own movie there and everything.
I mean, you get it. You're going to have the Book of Boba Fett. You're going to have the Solo, series of movies. It looks like maybe 2 or 3 of these. You're going to have, a Lando Calrissian series, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. This is filling in everything that was missing. Every character that has an overlap with the previous 66 era or running into that era and rolls through the original trilogy and beyond is getting covered here. And so this missing period of time that was always the radioactive, George Lucas said, you're not allowed to even talk about it. You can't even mention anything that happened in this period of time, is now starting to get filled in. And it's allowing there to be, it's allowing this connection between the stuff that's happening in the 66 timeline, the Mandalorian timeline, and the post Skywalker timeline, right? Those 3 eras, which is what I'm going to start calling them, the 66 era, the Mandalorian era, and the post Skywalker era. Those 3 eras are all going to stitch together now because they have characters that are around for all of them, and they can.
Why did he not want to talk about that period?
He just did not want anybody writing any novels about that time. So it wasn't like he wouldn't muse about it. He just said, "This is all canon." Blacklisted. You cannot say anything happened during this time. You can't mention anything that Han Solo did when he was 13 years old. If you name it at a place in an event, you're not allowed to do that. You can't do it. You can only talk about things that were referenced in the movies, and so they would always make a big deal, for instance, out of the fact that Han Solo had a scar on his chin. That was always a thing because they were allowed to create a reason why the scar existed, because plainly it did, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the degree of tightness that was the lid was very tight on this period. So for there to be the Order 66 period is very rich, because they had already created all of that fodder during the Clone Wars. They had created a lot of strands to have continue on, and it is completely blank. So there is not some Legends canon to overwrite. There is nothing.
Right.
Well, I think he might have done that also because he had plans at some point to do it himself. So he didn't want it to be like overwritten or written in a way that he didn't have control over. He still, Lucas was always very protective of certain parts of the story because I think he just wanted to do something with it.
Yeah, I mean that answer makes a lot of sense because I mean that's a highly volatile. This period is a highly volatile time in the timeline. Sounds like and he really wanted to do his part as far as telling that story, especially with the Clone Wars.
Yeah, because you could see how you could mess it up. You could go in,
and
screw it up and mess up the timeline, mess up the story, screw up the characters, and not make everything sync up.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Well, the man ran a tight ship, I guess.
Yeah,
he was the father. He was, he's responsible for why we're sitting here right now, even though he's not in it anymore. He's still responsible for why we're here and why there's still millions of people who are here, still watching it,
still talking about it.
And yet, because no human is infallible, there is Jar Jar Binks.
And I was going to say, there's two characters that nobody's talked about: Jar Jar Binks and Leia.
Why aren't they talking about Jar Jar Binks more? Let's get him on stage. Can we get Jar Jar out here again?
Bring him over here. Oh, Misa, so happy to be here on your podcast.
Ahmad Best just goes into the meeting. When Jar Jar's not on the screen, they should be talking about Jar Jar. Where is Jar Jar? What is Jar Jar doing?
We all know Hitch. That's your favorite character deep down.
It is. And it's because it's the only character in Star Wars I could ever actually be cast as. Because I have all. That's the one I can play the bumbling doofus, right? But I don't think I can
need a costume.
No.
There he goes.
Right. No special effects either. You mean I can't swim that great. Swim. Yeah. Jar Jar Binks can swim. George just goes back to his newspaper.
Yeah, definitely the Gungans are fun. But moving on from our kind of news and intro aspect, let's dive right into it, guys. I mean, another episode this week of Bad Batch. On DP, I know that since you're the newest crowned Star Wars fan, what were your thoughts? I mean, I definitely think it was a good episode as we're coming near the close here of this season.
Yeah, we're coming on the back half of the season. Well, we are on the back half of the season one of Bad Batch. Infested is what it was called. It was a pretty decent episode. The A team, as I like to call them, they're always into something. And Omega is always doing her thing as far as she's just doing her thing and everything. So I thought it was a pretty decent episode.
They definitely have a good formula for these. I mean, these guys get into even with the Clone Wars, everything was very mission oriented. There was an objective, there was a conflict. They failed, they came back, they figured out a way to get through it, and nailed it at the end. And I do love Omega. She is great. Like, can't quite figure out where she's gonna sit. At the end, though, where is she gonna leave the Kaminoans? I mean, there's still some. She still has some,
or something like that.
Yeah, still has some tie there.
Yeah.
Or is she just gonna go with the guys, and learn and train them, harness their power, and turn them into a true fighting machine.
We're learning more about spices.
Yeah. Spice. Let me tell you about spice. It's how you make death sticks. And if you go to Coruscant and you're in the Coruscanti nightclub district, let me tell you something, bud. If you ain't got no spice, you ain't being nice.
a throwaway line in a movie becomes a thing. So I mean, that's the whole Spice Run, legendary Spice Run thing, and now we're just learning just a bunch of stuff.
Well, the Spice Mines at Kessel, the Kessel Run is on right up into Spice.
Yeah.
Plus,
Mhm.
it needed to have a reason for all this, intergalactic and interplanetary gangsterism, and so a drug trade is pretty convenient. So
Yes.
there you go.
Yeah.
As far as a narrative device, it makes a lot of sense. And this spice situation, this spice trade, was very much a way for authors to make a Legends novel into a cocaine story without having to talk about cocaine. Because why would there be cocaine in space? DP, can you think of a reason why there would be space cocaine?
You don't need to get high. You're already high in space.
Pretty much, just how it is and everything.
But it's okay. It's okay because this makes a lot. It does make sense that there would be some sort of MacGuffin-y thing for us to go for, right?
Hunter and the gang, they never want to get involved with stuff, but Omega she just brings them back around, like when they get real reluctant on getting involved in I forgot what the green guy, the one that's holding them over as far as like owing the money and stuff.
What's her, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's a she. Yeah.
What's her? She's like a Transoidian figure.
I was gonna say, I forget the
Roland Durand.
Okay.
Okay.
And they're Devronian.
Okay. Yeah.
Deveronian.
But every time
they're devils, the hair, they hunt the horns. They're devils, but they call it Deveronian because
she was just a little overweight. That's why she looks a little different.
But Omega is like the soul of the group. If they're not trying to do the right thing, she gets the boys, the guys to do the right thing. And they how can you say no to Omega? She's just a sweet little child and everything, and I love her sense of doing right. Right from wrong, and that's just that's a Star Wars thing right there. That's the sense of doing right, by someone. I don't think if you had that, not in like element of these shows and movies and stuff, it wouldn't be Star Wars. You got to have that element of doing right, as far as that. So I like the way that they're depicting. It could have been an easy thing with Omega, where she is just like the annoying kid, but she is not. She is definitely not that.
It kind of reminds you of the episode when the younglings, had lost their lightsaber parts when they were building a lightsaber, and it's kind of like there's parallels to her character as long as like a aging Ahsoka, she gets a little more mature because we keep forgetting how young Ahsoka was kind of drafted into the Clone War. A lot of younglings were still being cared for at Coruscant at the Jedi Academy. So definitely I can see the parallels to her and kind of basically a shared role in a sense. I mean, a lot of these characters you have to have one A to have one B. We talk about the linearness of a lot of these series. So I was excited to see somebody break up other than having just a bad batch. Another character we can go on. I mean, look how much is developed we got from Clone Wars. We talk about we'll go into Rebels, things like that. So outside the main characters, like you guys say, it's good to develop these other characters. Ahsoka wasn't even mentioned 3/4 through the Mandalorian, and look how much she's picked up speed on literally one episode. So I don't have a problem with Omega. I like the idea.
But it's always when she's talking to these people and she's explaining what she thinks they ought to do. What she's saying is never you should do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. It's always you should do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, and it gets you a better result than doing the bad thing.
There you go.
Yeah. So it's that she's your conscience, but also she's figured out a way for that to get you the thing you want anyway.
Yep.
And you can see this playing off her real expertise as a strategist. She knows how it's all going to play out. You see that in that scene with Roland where the Pikes have them. She looks at the gun first, and she sees the gun and decides not to use it. Right. I think what's interesting about her in the sense that she's able to do strategy in places that aren't battle, and I think that is what the Bad Batch miss. They are, able to handle any situation when it comes to fighting their way out of a problem, but they can't think their way away from a problem or around a problem.
Around it, yeah.
They
have to be in the middle of it. In most cases, they've caused it. They've caused it. So I think in a lot of ways they're very good at getting themselves into and out of trouble. I think Omega gives them focus, kind of is going to anchor them a little bit. So
yeah,
they're like looking at her like, wow, who is this? Wow, okay, let's listen to her.
Yeah,
okay. She knows what she's talking about. But each episode, I'm just impressed at the camaraderie, and that's what I loved about Star Wars is you got a group of people that worked together, and they respected each other, and they listened to each other, and they were able to work through problems that way. And that's an important thing. That's what was kind of missed in the new trilogy, the newest trilogy, is you didn't really have this. Yeah, okay, Rey and Finn, and yeah, okay, I get it. They sort of got together, but didn't really have any group performances that were there. Now, in all of what we've been talking about for the last 2 years, however long we've been doing this, we've got these groups of people that really come together in with these challenges. And Bad Batch is like it's perfect. It's a perfect recipe for all of this.
I mean, now that you mentioned, like, Trent's T-Mitch's favorite 3 movies. If you had got Rey, Finn, and Poe together in the first movie and carried them out through through all 3 of the movies together, instead of having them split off and then come back together, I think you would have got that, right? You got that same camaraderie that you were talking about, which is a really great key element in like Star Wars and stuff. So yeah, I do definitely agree with that.
But DP, you're missing the most important element. You got to have a linear script to do that.
Okay, yeah.
So we can't write 3 different movies by 3 different people and then try to figure out
and call them all Star Wars.
That can't just give
everyone to just open up and swallow, right? No, it's just not going to work.
We're going here, but that doesn't make any sense. Shut up. Well, it's what happens when your characters don't have agency.
It doesn't matter. It's Star Wars. Oh,
we're gonna ram that ship with this ship at light speed. Wow, that will release a pretty insane amount of energy when you kill. How come no one's ever done this before? You know what I mean? Like, it's just like.
They'll go ahead and give their money. They do it to us all the time,
And the fuel thing. There's a lot of stuff that they're doing a little differently now. I think it's like an acknowledgement that these sort of tropey things that have to the MacGuffins, don't make it sound because we're gonna unleash a horde of zombies, for instance, or in Fairy to talk to the Harry Potter people, right? These scenes, these are tropes. These are things that happen all over the place. The Mandalorian just did one of these last season with the spiders, the ice spiders, this is sort of it's a Star Wars trope. And I think what's great for me is that this is basically what I asked them for. I wanted a race squadron series, which was special ops. This is A-Team. It's just basically what I asked for. I like the monster of the week peppering in. You have the political stuff where we're talking about chain codes for 2 weeks, and we're talking about civil liberties. Yeah. And now we're just smashing bugs.
Yeah.
I like the variety.
It's a great variety. Speaking of which and everything, the Clone Wars touched on a lot of that. So if you're a big fan of the Clone Wars, you're still getting those elements and everything in this, but you're getting more of a focus with just these characters. With our A-Team, the Bad Batch. Yeah, so I'm just loving it. Can't wait to see Crosshairs. He wasn't in this episode, so hoping we see more of him towards these last few episodes, these next few episodes.
Yeah, he's there.
Yeah. And one thing they're foreshadowing here is
I know you're loving Crosshairs, kid.
Yeah, Crosshairs in the new Admiral. What the heck's his name? We couldn't think of it last week.
Yeah. And apparently we can't think of it this week either.
We're falling off.
Yeah, hashtag CBBS.
Clip this up for everybody who thinks we're Star Wars fans and can't even think of a
Right, I
character.
can't remember the
We don't know names.
This
Clip this
podcast
out.
isn't a trivia contest.
Right. All right.
Certainly not a cartoon Star Wars trivia contest, which I wouldn't be caught dead in anyway.
What were you saying, Hitch?
I don't know, man. I was probably
No, I just straight up interrupted you there, but but yeah,
someone needs to at a certain point, I need to be interrupted.
This we went on this kind of this little tangent about secondary characters. Once again, we've just made another came up with another reason on why the third trilogy didn't work. I mean, you have Rey and you have Kylo. They're considered tier 1 characters. There was no second tier character that they tried with Finn, and I think that's something John Boyega alluded to. That he was expected to be that. The Omega of the series, and for whatever reason, they didn't develop him enough, and maybe they thought, or maybe they think about, obviously, because he's not going to stick around, recasting him, because we hear about future projects they'd like to do, maybe a Rey series, maybe, the Grogu series later on down the line. I mean, so, yeah, I just think that, when you have these characters that develop, and we've seen that in the Filoni-verse, so that's the interesting thing, ever since we started all this stuff that he's been associated with, these layers and these complexities, these characters, and it's not even just the second tier character. We've had characters, we've seen in the Clone Wars weekly that either died or we've developed these people within 12 to 15 minutes,
Yeah,
so,
they've done an excellent job as far as that. I'm interested to see, because we got that little bit of a story with Finn, and how he became a clone trooper.
right.
And nothing became of that. So that really piqued my interest about, well, how do people become stormtroopers? Was it these leftover clone troopers that eventually just all became stormtroopers? But apparently not. So he was kidnapped, right?
Yeah.
The new order. All the troopers were kidnapped, taken.
Okay.
They're young kids.
Maybe scouted out from their, just for certain abilities, but they were all taken against their will. And
I want to see that story.
I really thought they were going to go down that route, but then the John Boyega breakdown. I mean, granted, they recast War Machine after the first movie, so I don't have an issue with them recasting Finn. But as we talk about, we find out at the end he was Force sensitive. Like, you kind of leave this hole, and I think we talked about it when we talk about novels. That's really the big hole in Star Wars. Like, I'd like to see a novel based on, like we're talking about, like, called Star Wars, and just call it Stormtrooper, and we understand the life of a Stormtrooper who is, maybe this is after Episode 8, Episode 9, even these new ones. As we've seen the helmets broken, things like that in The Mandalorian, of the life of a Stormtrooper who's suffered, who's done with the Order, and kind of like their recollection of a life, whether it's like a special ops, kind of like we do with the Bad Batch. But that's something I'd like to see with Star Wars, is going down this, you write a novel or go down the story of a Stormtrooper, a life of a Stormtrooper. That'd be something I think that might catch the eye, at least me. I'd be intrigued on that one.
So, okay, so this timeline that we're in with, the bad, after Order 66, how long is it before we start seeing Stormtroopers?
It's coming soon. After these clones are gone, this is the clone army is really the end of it. So the Grand Clone Army is the end, and as we start getting into Episode 4, that's when they're actually humans or humanoid figures, I believe. So
the helmet markings are starting to change, and depending on where Rebels falls into this, which I'm not really sure, but Rebels, they're full on stormtroopers. They're
okay. I'm interested to see if Bad Batch is going to go. I'm assuming so, because it has to be part of the history. So at some point they're going to have to address, the coming of the stormtroopers, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If in coming seasons, I don't know how many seasons they're planning on doing Batch, but they're going to have to address it. So I'm interested to see if they're going to take that little bit of story from the Force Awakens and expand on that.
Yeah, and even with the Bad Batch, you kind of seen it in the Mandalorian season two, as we got the the Sith troopers, the Death troopers, kind of like, you don't want stormtroopers to handle the elite squad. They try to create their own, Bad Batch, which were these Death troopers that were, programmed instead of being clones, they were computerized. So you kind of see the parallels in which they're trying to do to tie some of these characters together. Um, it'd be nice to see a couple of them. I guess Phasma was kind of like your, character that if you would have like a stormtrooper, any kind of trooper that was somebody that was, maybe. And I think she has her own book, right? Phasma had a book. I didn't read it, but I think Phasma had a book out. So maybe that was their idea of maybe trying to come out with a story. But I think that was the closest we ever got to having somebody that's, was developed from that. And it was different because you never seen stormtroopers in other suits. Obviously, we've seen the red, with the jet troopers and the snow troopers and flame troopers, but you never really saw it was stormtroopers all in white, and their leaders really were Thrawn or any admiral, on the Death Star. So that's really unique to see how they, how they change things.
Yeah, so I mean, it's been a good season so far. I'm interested to see they're slow walking the story just like how they did with the Clone Wars. So, I mean, it's a lot of story to tell. So I'm loving like the little adventures that these guys go through. I'm liking Hunter. He's like the leader, and I forgot the glasses guy name, but he's pretty just anal to the point.
Yeah.
My man, what is his name? The B.A. Baracus guy, the big dude, the
Wrecker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wrecker. Yeah. When they were in like the tunnel and that big monster and everything, he was talking about the monster of the week and everything. I'm liking those small stories and how they get up out of these situations that they do put themselves in.
Yeah.
And they get themselves in there's always a point where they could have made it a better decision, but they don't.
Was anybody sort of like, okay, so y'all really going to leave Omega with the
You're really going to do that right now?
Yeah. I think, okay, this is you're supposed to have her with you at all times and everything. And Hunter was like, yeah, we don't want to leave her with you guys, but they ended up just leaving her anyway. I guess there was nothing else they could do, but they just left the little girl.
Well, luckily they didn't know how valuable she is, or else they might not have thought that was equal collateral. Why they need to keep both of them? She's worth so much.
Yeah.
The Kaminoans. I mean, goodness gracious. But I guess these, they want things to be equal. You give us our stuff back, we don't care. We're good.
Yeah.
We're out of here. See ya. That's how their stuff works. They have all the spices. So it's all good.
I love how cold his voice was. He was just like, he wasn't taking no stuff.
Oh, you think this is a negotiation?
It is not. Oh, yeah. The couple stuff.
We got another episode coming up here. It looks like countdown is about 4 hours, 4 hours and 20 minutes. So
Yeah.
So we got this done in the first week. So under the wire. That's all right.
Being selfish, I still wish those were Eastern Standard Time. Being selfish.
Well, for me,
a lot easier for 3 a.m. I know maybe for Hitch and a youngling, it's easy.
All time is equal to me now. I am the master of all time. 3 p.m., 3 a.m. I got them all. So, I'm all set.
It all comes together. Yep.
I'll be awake. I'll be watching it pretty quick after it comes up, I'm sure. Someone will wake me up around 4, I bet.
Mm-hmm. That's good theater. But yeah, guys, once again, I like everybody. It's good to get back on here, regularly and able to discuss these topics with you guys. I mean, this and crazy to think about it, but we're in August, July going into August. This is usually for any kind of media, especially in fan channels, in a sense. Star Wars is taking a chance because think about these 3 months. Everybody's off, even after the pandemic. This is the time where you don't have a series out. You don't have any content. Look how Disney Star Wars is capitalizing on really the 3 summer months that everybody's traveling, but yet they have a series out that people can connect to, we can talk about. I mean, to be honest, I think this is really the first time anybody's ever done this. Sitcoms wise, anything. Usually the summer is dead zone for any show. So
Well,
Think about what's on CBS right now. It's Big Brother and Love Island, like 4 nights a week. That is not a lot of scripting happening.
how do you know, man?
well, when you give people a choice, which it would, you know, when the time I grew up and everything had to be on at a set time, and you had to make that time in order for it, you know, to see your particular program. And then the summer, it was just nothing on, and you got to do whatever you wanted to do outside. Now you got a choice. You got a time and on demand is what they coined it. You know, you can watch it on your time. So you could put anything out there nowadays and have people still watch it because they watch it on their leisure. You can watch it on your phones. You can watch it, you know, while you're on the beach, you know, anywhere, any place, on a plane. You know, you can watch your whatever content, your favorite content that you want to watch. You can watch it anytime that you want. You don't have to have a set schedule like how it used to be.
Right. And Disney's been smart since been a one with the Disney Plus. I mean, they could have went the Netflix route and released a whole series as we discussed. You
Glad they
can
did.
watch it.
Yeah.
But it seems like Netflix has even kind of changed the whole idea of how they release stuff. I mean, that R.L. Stine Fear Street, I think that came out recently, was supposed to be a one-day release, and they've broken it up. Allegedly, this last season or whatever, the next season of Stranger Things may get broken up in a weekly take. So, to be honest, I think they're embracing this YouTube community, these fan channels, different, whether or not even YouTube, these different mediums. As far as we have people listening to us on the podcast. I really think that the traditional media of watching a E News or something, or wherever you consume your entertainment, has really died off, and us and these other different channels or medias. It's really the future. I mean, I don't remember the last time I watched E for news on series or breaking news. I usually go to YouTube or Us or, and just try to find my news. So I feel like we are the new media, the new world. I mean, people come to us for that knowledge and that, the nuances that we talk about, and we make it fun. I think, a lot of those guys are scripted and you're kind of pretty rigid. We kind of go off the cusp, which makes it even fun.
Yeah, it's a ball.
Definitely is. But as we close out here, guys, question of the week for you guys, we'll put up on, I believe we'll put this in on the Facebook group. It's we'll just do this real quick and short and sweet. So, what are your thoughts on Disney Plus premium services? Would you continue to subscribe, or do you want to go back to theater? I know where I am and where we've discussed this earlier, but that'll be our question of the week for you guys. Do you want to continue with the premium service, or do you feel that it should just be one way, which is just in the theater, and we'll take a punt at that. So, until the next week, guys, we talk about episode 15, which airs here in about 4 hours and 15 minutes, and discuss some new topics. Hopefully, we got some more news on some other series. But until next week, guys, this is the way.
This is
The way.